Lonely CEO's heartwarming Christmas revelation, discover how one night changed everything forever. Jack Thompson strode through his opulent office, a man cloaked in the relentless ambition that had driven him to dizzying heights in the tech world. At 38, he was the definition of success: tall, slicked-back hair shimmering in the holiday lights, his breathtaking view of Manhattan a constant reminder of the wealth he'd amassed. Reverberating through the festive decorations and clinking glasses was the cold whisper of emptiness. The hustle didn't ward off the loneliness that clung to him like a shadow. With Christmas just around the corner, Jack wanted to do something meaningful. Hosting a charity event seemed like the perfect way to give back while simultaneously shining a light on his corporate image. He envisioned a grand spectacle, a lavish gathering filled with influential names. It was driven by guilt, perhaps, but a nagging need for validation coursed through him. But what was a grand event without genuine human connection? The very thought slipped through his fingers like so many falling snowflakes. As the event unfolded, chaos ensued. Community members gathered, voices rising like a tidal wave of discontent. Jack, oblivious to their concerns, overstepped in his eagerness to showcase his financial prowess. Then, a familiar name caught his attention: his estranged sister, Sarah. An idealistic schoolteacher, devoted to her community, she had heard whispers of Jack's grand philanthropy, and she was not amused. "Jack, seriously? This is not what we need," she exclaimed over the phone. Old wounds threatened to spill over, proof of the distance he had put between them. With each word, the chasm widened, layering his heart with a weight heavier than any corporate deal he'd ever handled. As tension spiraled, a moment of overshadowed clarity struck him on Christmas Eve. In the midst of the calamity, Jack stepped outside, the freezing air sharp against his skin. There, he found a homeless veteran huddled on the sidewalk, eyes worn and wise. The man, with stories etched in the lines on his face, shared tales of sacrifice, resilience, the brutal reality of life just outside Jack's high-rise walls. "Life ain't just skyscrapers and Wall Street, son," the veteran said, his voice a gruff embrace. Each of his words struck Jack deep, resonating with truths he had ignored. The realization of his privilege, the isolation that success had wrought, Jack felt an awakening, a dawning anger at himself. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. A tightness gripped Jack's chest. The man's suffering felt personal, reflecting the hollowness he'd been feeling himself. This was the true essence of Christmas, unfiltered and raw, a time for connection and healing. Jack was faced with a choice that mattered more than any deal he had ever made: would he continue the facade of the powerful, or would he step into vulnerability and reach for the family he had neglected? As the clock ticked towards midnight, the room buzzed with people, but all he could think about was reconciling with Sarah. The spirit of Christmas pulled at him, promising redemption. But the question loomed heavy: could one night make a real difference? All Jack knew was that it was time for a change, time to dismantle the walls he had built and embrace the warmth of the community he had turned away from. The resolve began to surge within him, but would it be enough? Jack stepped back into the crowded ballroom, the warmth clashing against the crisp chill still lingering in his bones. Laughter and cheerful chatter bounced off the lavish decorations, yet the world felt distant. His heart raced as he scanned the crowd for Sarah, desperate to find the connection he had so long neglected. Amid the shimmer of the chandeliers, he caught sight of her. She stood at the edge of the room, her arms crossed, surrounded by a group of teachers and parents, all engaged in animated discussion. Jack's throat tightened. An urge hit him, fierce and sudden. He couldn't let this moment slip away, not again. "Sarah," he breathed, stepping closer, the warmth of the gathering only amplifying the cold in his heart. As she turned, confusion flickered across her face before it hardened into something he dreaded: disappointment. "What do you want, Jack?" she asked, her voice surprisingly steady. It cut through the clamor of the party, sharp and clear. He felt the weight of her words like a heavy snowfall. "I want." His voice faltered, and in that moment, he realized how much he needed to be honest. "I want to make things right." The room dimmed for him, sound swirling into a muted hum. He took a step forward, vulnerability surging in him, displacing the tightly wound facade of power. "I messed up. I thought I could fix everything with money, but I'm starting to see it doesn't work that way. I need you, Sarah." Her expression softened just a fraction. "You think you can buy your way in now? After ignoring me for years? Ignoring all of us?" She gestured to the community around them, faces lighting up and dimming as conversations flared. "I was wrong," he admitted, his hands clenched at his sides. "I thought that was what I had to do to be successful. But now I see I don't know what I was chasing. It was never about the money." A silence wrapped around them, heavy and palpable. The sounds of the party faded into oblivion as Sarah let out a soft sigh, her defenses momentarily lowered. Jack took the opportunity to continue, pouring out his heart with each word. "We lost touch, and it's my fault. I don't want to be that guy any longer. Please, can we start over? Can you help me understand what really matters?" Her gaze bored into his, searching for sincerity. Finally, she let out a shaky breath. "It's not that simple, Jack. You can't just waltz back into my life because you feel guilty. It will take time." "I'll wait," he promised, urgency burning in his chest. "Just give me a chance. I'll prove it. I'll help out at your school. I'll be there, no cameras, just me." At that moment, Jack felt the walls he had built around himself tremble. She considered him, the flicker of hope dancing in her eyes as she wrestled with the thought. "Okay," she said at last, tentatively, as if breaking the ice of an albatross that had long settled on her shoulders. "But you have to really commit, Jack. It won't be easy." Jack nodded fervently, the sense of promise curling in his gut. It didn't matter if it would be hard. For the first time in a long time, he felt the thrill of possibility. Maybe he had a second chance. Just as they shared a moment of raw understanding, the crowd erupted into applause. The moment shattered, pulling them back to the event. Sarah's smile faded, and Jack felt the reality of their unresolved past loom over him. But the night wasn't over. The homeless veteran's words echoed in his mind, reminding him that change wouldn't happen in a vacuum. What if Jack used his position to truly uplift the community, to give them what they truly needed? To make amends beyond his family? A sense of determination filled him as he turned back to the gathering. "I need to do more than just this," he said to Sarah, his resolve coiling tighter. "Where do I start?" Sarah's brow furrowed, a flicker of a smile lurking in her hesitation. "Well, how about you listen first?" The challenge wrapped around them both like a warm embrace, a beginning woven into the fabric of their complicated history. And as Jack prepared to embark on a journey he never expected, he knew this was just the beginning. But where would it ultimately lead him? The music swelled, filling the ballroom with a festive atmosphere that felt like a veil over Jack's newfound resolve. He stole a glance at Sarah, who was now offering directions to other parents regarding volunteer opportunities. Each laugh and cheer echoed around him, but Jack's focus remained on the woman who had sparked a flicker of hope in his heart. He couldn't ignore how her eyes lit up when she spoke about her students. The way she described their potential made his heart swell. The distance he had kept for years crumbled, replaced by a burning desire to contribute something meaningful. "Listen first," she had said. The simple sentence felt like an anchor. Jack sighed. He needed to find a way to truly engage, to absorb the stories, the lives, that surrounded this community. "Sarah!" he called out, weaving through the crowd. She turned, a mixture of curiosity and caution on her face. "What's up?" she asked, a hint of apprehension lacing her lips. "I want to help with the holiday fundraiser this weekend," he announced, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I can donate supplies, maybe even set up a matching gift for what's raised. But I also want to come by and talk to the kids to really hear them. I need to feel their hopes and dreams." Sarah regarded him, skepticism flickering behind her eyes. "You think a donation will fix everything?" "I don't expect it to," he replied swiftly, passion surging. "But this is about being part of something bigger. I want to show up, Sarah, not just write a check. I want to understand." In the split second that followed, Jack could see the wheels turning in her mind. The faintest glow of trust sparked back in her expression. "If you're serious, I'll let you shadow me at school." But? Jack prompted eagerly, leaning in. "But you need to come ready to listen and learn. The world outside these walls can feel far away for the kids," she warned, her voice steady. "Once you're in, you can't just disengage. It's all or nothing." "I can do that," Jack assured her, his heart pounding with emotion. He knew he was stepping into a world he had long overlooked. She nodded, a flicker of her former self shining through. "All right, we'll give it a shot. Just remember, these kids need to see your sincerity." As they talked, a warmth began to spread between them, a bridge slowly rebuilding over the years of neglect. Jack felt a swell of gratitude. This wasn't just about redemption for him, it was about paving paths to futures uncharted. The applause faded into a murmur, allowing them space to breathe. But the moment was short-lived as the clamor surged back, people beginning to mingle about the room again. Jack glanced at the gathering, noting the parents, the students, the faces that had once felt foreign. "What do you think will happen when they finally see you?" Sarah asked, her tone playful yet earnest. "I don't know," he confessed. "But I hope they see me as a person, not just that guy in the corner office." "You might be surprised," she said softly, almost to herself. As they shared a short laugh, the lights flickered, signaling a toast. Jack's heart felt lighter, but his mind was still a flurry of anticipation and nerves. He couldn't shake the idea of encountering the students, the stories they tell, the laughter and perhaps the tears. Turning to Sarah with newfound determination, he said, "I want to meet them, hear what they're passionate about, their hopes for the future. They matter. They all matter." A sudden noise burst through the crowd. A little boy, probably no older than 8, had dropped his juice and now stood quietly, staring at the puddle with wide eyes. Jack felt Sarah's gaze dart to the boy, then back to him, lingering on the unspoken challenge. "Now's the perfect moment," she whispered, her eyes glinting. Jack took a deep breath, courage bubbling up from within. He headed toward the boy, squatting down so they were eye to eye. "Hey there," he said gently, feeling the connection spark. "What's your name?" And with that one question, Jack was stepping into an unfamiliar territory, a world vibrant and alive. Could this encounter change everything, leading him to confront more than just his past, but to embrace a future filled with purpose? As the boy answered, Jack realized he was no longer just seeking forgiveness, he was beginning to truly listen. What new revelations awaited him in this dance of learning and hope? The boy, still absorbed in his juice puddle, looked up at Jack with deer-like innocence. "I'm Tommy," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes glancing between the mess below and the stranger before him. "Nice to meet you, Tommy." Jack smiled, trying to match the boy's quiet energy. "Did that juice slip away from you?" "No worries, it happens to the best of us." Tommy's frown turned into the slightest hint of a smile as his cheeks glowed with the embarrassment of the spill. "Yeah, it slipped. I can't be as careful as my mom," he said, trying to shrug it off but looking ready to cry at any moment. Jack felt a tug at his heart. "You know what? I think you're doing just fine. Sometimes, it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn." The boy absorbed the words, his young mind processing them, allowing the conversation to grow. But the juice is all sticky now, what if it gets on my shoes? A laugh escaped Jack, warm and genuine. Hey, sticky shoes can be fixed. Just add a little soap and water. But I bet it'll make a funny story for you later. What do you think? Tommy paused, considering it, the tension in his small shoulders easing. Yeah, it will, he agreed, his bright eyes lighting up a bit. As Jack chatted with Tommy, he felt a shift within himself. It wasn't about fixing a mistake or showing off, it was about connecting. He asked questions, and Tommy began to share his likes, the superheroes he adored, and his dreams of one day being a great artist. Can you draw? Jack inquired, feeling intrigued. A little, Tommy admitted shyly, clutching his juice cup tightly. I want to be like Mr. Banks. He paints. He said I can show him my drawings next week. Mr. Banks sounds awesome, Jack encouraged, feeling the boy's passion seep into his own heart. You know what? It's really brave of you to share your art. It takes courage to show what you create. Tommy nodded, his smile brightening as he soaked in the words. In this moment, Jack understood. This small, genuine exchange was not just about him trying to make amends. It was bigger than that. It was about fostering hope and understanding. From across the room, Sarah watched with a soft smile. She could see the transformation in Jack. Each earnest word traced a pathway back to connection, each moment a bridge forged anew. It was invigorating. But just as Jack felt like he was finding his stride, laughter erupted nearby. He turned to see a group of older kids teasing one another, their voices ringing out like bells of innocence made all the more poignant by their approaching adolescence. Jack's heart began to race. He felt drawn to them. Tommy, would you like to introduce me to your friends? The boy's eyes widened in surprise. You want to meet them? Absolutely. I want to know everyone, Jack replied, standing up and offering a friendly hand to Tommy. As they walked over, Jack had mixed feelings. Would they embrace him, or would he be met with the same indifference he once felt toward them? But he pressed forward, determined to break down the walls he had built around his own heart. Just as they reached the group, a girl with bright pink glasses lifted her head. Her expression flickered between curiosity and caution. Who's that? He's the nice guy who talked to me. Tommy exclaimed, pointing at Jack as if unveiling a magical creature. The kids huddled closer, eyeing Jack with skepticism. Nice? Is he really? One boy asked, crossing his arms. Jack felt a heat rise in his chest. I sure hope so. I'd like to think I am. I just want to hear your stories. Every one of you matters, he said, looking each child in the eye with sincerity. In that moment, Jack's heart raced not with fear, but with anticipation. Would they open up to him? Would they trust him to listen, not just for the sake of being there, but because he genuinely wanted to learn? All right, what's the best story you have? He asked, leaning in slightly, ready to dive into their world. But before any of them could respond, another figure interrupted, drawing his attention like an unexpected storm. The girl with the glasses had just leaned in and whispered something to her friend. What was it that she had to say? Maybe he's just here to take pictures of us or something. The girl with the pink glasses leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The other kids' eyes darted between Jack and her, gauging his reaction, almost as if they were determining whether he was a threat or a friend. Jack felt a pang in his chest. The innocence he had experienced moments before felt distant. Take pictures. Why would I do that? He asked, forcing a laugh to ease the tension. I promise, I'm not here to invade your space. I just want to listen to your stories. The kids exchanged skeptical glances. Jack couldn't help but notice that their defenses were high. They had likely encountered enough insincerity in the past to be wary. Okay, if you're so interested, one boy interjected, still skeptical, tell us your best story then. What makes a guy like you want to listen to kids? His tone was challenging yet curious. Jack took a moment, the pressure rising in his throat. He figured he could reveal a piece of himself, share why he was there without sounding overly rehearsed. When I was your age, I felt like nobody listened to me. I had lots to say, lots of stories to share, but no one cared. I guess I wanted to make sure you all know that you're important. You matter, and your voices are worth hearing. A few kids exchanged unsure looks, and for a moment, there was a shift in the atmosphere. They leaned in closer, curiosity replacing some of their caution. Maybe there was truth in his words. What do you mean, nobody listened? The girl with the glasses asked, her tone softening just a bit. Jack searched for courage. I mean, I had these big dreams, and I felt alone in them. Like the things I wanted to share with others just vanished into thin air. I know how that feels. And listening to you guys feels like a chance to change that. As the words hung in the air, he noticed Tommy's eyes widen with understanding, as if he recognized a familiar pain in Jack's story. Those small moments of vulnerability often broke through the walls, opening doors for deeper connections. Okay, I guess we can share a story, but it has to be a good one. The boy who had originally challenged him finally relented, smirking slightly. Jack's heart warmed, it felt like progress. How about I tell you about my favorite superhero and what he taught me about bravery? As he began to weave his tale, a spark of interest ignited in Tommy's eyes, along with those of his peers. Laughter and murmurs filled the air, bridging the gap that had loomed just moments before. Energy flowed between them, a warmth blossoming in the frost that had settled in. But just then, a sharp voice pierced through the laughter. You guys better not be talking to a loser. A taller kid approached, his shadow casting over the circle, his presence commanding and intimidating. Jack's heart sunk. Would he have to face this kind of confrontation again? He could feel the tension in the air shift, and he couldn't tell if the kids would scatter in fear or stand their ground. Wait, he's all right. Tommy piped up, stepping forward as if to protect Jack. He's telling us stories. They're fun. The taller kid scoffed but paused, glancing at Jack with a piercing gaze. Jack felt smaller again, yet he realized he had come this far. He was going to back down now. Let us make it a story battle then, the tall kid suggested, crossing his arms defiantly. If you're so good at telling stories, let us see what you've got, old man. Jack's heart raced. A battle? It could be the opening he needed to truly connect with these kids, but where would he find a story powerful enough? What kind of story? Jack asked, locking eyes with the taller boy, the pressure mounting again. The tall kid smirked, determination brewing in his stance. Something epic about you and why you're here. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their expectations. He sensed that behind those challenging eyes lay curiosity and the desperate desire to connect, just like him. As he launched into a story about a lesson learned on a rainy day that changed the course of his life, he felt not just himself speaking, but the essence of every kid's voice waiting to break free. Little did he know that what he would reveal next would leave them all breathless. Little Tommy listened with wide eyes, and for the first time, Jack felt that perhaps he was finally becoming part of this community. But as he reached for the climax of his story, the tall kid interjected suddenly, "But wait, what happened next?" And Jack wasn't sure how to answer. His heart raced with the unknown. What if this moment changed everything for him, just like he hoped it would for those kids? In the brief silence that followed, Jack's mind swirled with thoughts. The tall kid's interruption had landed like a heavy punch, but it also carried a spark of opportunity, a crack through which connection might seep. Jack's heart beat loud in his chest, and he realized the kids were all watching him intently, their eyes wide with anticipation. What happened next? He echoed, feeling the weight of the question. He could feel Tommy leaning forward, his innocent face painted with eagerness. Jack's own heart was grappling with anxiety, but he pressed on. Well, it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. He took a deep breath, letting the moment settle around him. There I was, drenched in rain, lost in my thoughts. I was trying to come up with something to fix my situation, but life doesn't always give you a clear answer, you know. Sometimes, it feels like the universe conspires against you. As he spoke, he noticed the group tuning into his story, an unspoken camaraderie knitting closer as they connected over raw emotions. Just when I was about to give up, an old man appeared on the street corner. He had a huge smile, despite the weather. He saw me, soaked and miserable, and he laughed. "Ah, my friend. Embrace the rain," he shouted. I thought he was insane. Embrace the rain. What did he mean? But something about his words sparked a fire in me. The taller boy tilted his head, intrigued but still skeptical. "And? Did you embrace it? What did that even mean?" Jack chuckled, gratitude flooding through him. "I guess I did. I let the raindrops fall on my face, and instead of feeling defeated, I began to dance. And it was wild, like all the burdens I carried vanished in that moment. It wasn't about fixing everything but finding joy even when things were hard." The kids listened carefully, their expressions shifting from challenge to fascination. Jack could see the glimmer of hope and curiosity as they absorbed each word. "And you know what? That dance led to the best transformation in my life. I started to reach out for help, share my dreams, and even chase them. I realized that you don't have to face the storm alone. Sometimes sharing your story can change everything." The group nodded, some chuckling softly as they processed his message. Jack felt lighter. At that moment, he drew strength from their engagement. It was more than a story, it was a reminder of the bonds that could form through vulnerability and honesty. But just then, a quieter girl in the back spoke up hesitantly, "So, what did you do next?" Her wide brown eyes locked onto his, brimming with genuine curiosity. Jack faltered. The answer to her question tangled in his throat. What came next was terrifying but exhilarating. "Well, I had to make a big decision that could change everything." "Was it something scary?" Tommy's voice rose. Jack nodded, the challenge evident in his voice. "It was. But it led me here, talking to you all. It taught me the importance of being brave, of sharing like this." He let the weight of his words settle, unsure if the kids would understand or like what he had to say next. Before he could continue, the tall kid leaned in, his previous bravado vanishing for a moment. "Then tell us what the decision was." There was a vulnerable thread in his voice, an opening. Jack took a deep breath, the heart of the matter approaching. "I decided it was time to start listening more to people like you." The energy shifted. A shared understanding danced amongst them, and Jack could see walls breaking down. Just as he prepared to dive deeper, the tall kid called out with a playful glint in his eye. "Okay, then. We want to hear it all. What happened after that?" Jack grinned, knowing that whatever came next was only the beginning. "All right, but it's not just about me. It's about all of us." Little did he know, the story he had to tell would lead them all to unexpected truths, binding their fates tighter than he could have imagined. As he began, a gust of wind whisked past them, sending a chill through the air, and he wondered if they were ready for the storm ahead. As Jack took a moment to ground himself, he noticed how the group leaned in even closer, curiosity bubbling like a pot about to boil. He could see it in their eyes, the desire for something more, something deeper. Their faces glowed under the fading light, and Jack knew he had to be brave too. "Okay," he said, pulling the words from the depths of his memory. "After that rain dance, I took a leap. I reached out to the people in my life. Friends, family, even those I never talked to much. I laid it all out, raw and real." Tommy's brows knitted together. "But that's scary, right? What if they didn't understand?" Jack felt warmth in the room, each child resonating with that fear. "Exactly. But I realized something. The fear of rejection had held me back my whole life." He exhaled slowly, remembering how it felt to be that scared kid. When I finally told them about my struggles, I was surprised. They listened. They really listened. Even to the scary stuff. Piped up the quiet girl from the back. Yes. They opened up to me too. My friends weren't perfect, they had their own storms brewing, and in sharing, we found a safe space. We learned it was okay to ask for help. In fact, it made us even closer. The kids exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from doubt to intrigue. Jack took a mental snapshot of their faces, knowing this moment was special, a shared secret against the loneliness they each battled. When I opened up, he continued, I began to see the world differently. I stopped chasing all those unrealistic dreams alone. I celebrated the small wins with my friends. I danced more, not just in the rain, but everywhere. What was the small win? The tall kid asked. His voice was earnest now, shedding the previous bravado like a snake shedding skin. There was this one time, Jack recalled, feeling the flush of nostalgia wash over him. My friends and I went out to help organize a local event. It was chaotic at first, but watching everyone come together, that was magic. We didn't just raise money, we created memories. I learned that it's the connections that matter most. A ripple of understanding moved through the group. Jack caught tiny smiles dancing at the corners of their lips. He leaned back, letting the energy settle for a moment. Just then, a crack of thunder echoed in the distance, momentarily freezing their laughter. That's weird, right? Tommy said, peering out into the dimming light. Jack chuckled. Sometimes, even a storm can bring a little excitement. The quiet girl piped up again, a hesitant light in her voice. What if something goes wrong when you try to connect with others? Jack's heart ached at her question. Sometimes it does, he admitted, but it's a chance to grow. Every time we stumble, we learn something new. The connections are still worth it. I wish I could be brave like that, Tommy said, his voice barely above a whisper. You are, Jack shot back, his tone gentle but firm. Just by being here and sharing your thoughts. You're already stepping outside your comfort zone. A comforting silence settled over them for a moment, like a deep breath before an important moment. They all seemed to share something profound in that space. Jack could feel the weight of their trust, their willingness to be vulnerable together. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. That's why we need each other. As he finished, a sudden gust of wind swept through the gathering, sending shivers down their spines. For a startled second, Jack felt an odd sense of urgency. They were teetering on the brink of something significant, and it filled him with a mix of excitement and dread. What if I told you that things got a lot tougher before they got better? Jack started, capturing their full attention once more. Are you ready for the storm ahead? He asked, unsure if he was discussing external tempests or the inner struggles they'd soon face together. The wind howled outside, whipping through the trees, almost as if it were answering Jack's question. The atmosphere changed, the energy crackled with potential, a palpable tension of thoughts and feelings hanging in the air. As dark clouds loomed overhead, Jack felt an urgency to share more, to prepare them for what lay ahead. I remember the hardest part, he said, his voice steady despite the storm brewing within him. It didn't happen overnight. There were days I felt like I was drowning, and I just wanted to give up. It's just easier, isn't it? To stop trying, to put on a brave face and pretend everything's fine. Tommy nodded slowly. The kids were silent now, fully engaged, hanging on every word. Jack could see their small, unsteady hearts recognizing the truth wrapped in his story. But, he continued, that's when I discovered the power of community. When things got tough, I leaned on the people I had reached out to. A soft smile crossed his face, and the warmth surged through him once again. I learned it's those tough conversations that matter the most. They became the glue that held us together. The quiet girl shifted in her seat, her eyes wide with curiosity. What did you do when you felt alone? It was a question Jack had mulled over himself. I spoke up, he responded, his tone earnest. I started reaching out again, something so simple but so hard. I thought I'd be a burden, that my friends would run away. But instead, they came closer, offering their hands and hearts. What if they don't come? Tommy asked, his voice trembling just slightly. Jack paused, searching for the right words. Sometimes, they don't, he admitted, but that fear it shouldn't stop us. Recall how you feel when you're honest. It's like taking off a heavy coat. You feel lighter, even if the path ahead is still blurry. The kids sat in rapt attention, the storm's fury barely registering as they absorbed his message. Thunder rumbled again, a reminder of the tumult brewing outside, but in Jack's heart, hope swelled. We need to remind each other that we're worth it. Any time we reach out, we're saying we matter. As if on cue, a flash of lightning illuminated their small circle, casting deep shadows and shaking the walls around them. Jack took a breath, feeling the electricity in the air, a mix of fear and courage coursing through him. And here's the thing, he added, leaning in closer. These storms they talk about. They can shift into beautiful rainbows. But we have to brave the downpour first. We owe it to ourselves to stand together, especially when things get tough. Jack could see their expressions change. The fear that once clouded their eyes was replaced by a spark of determination. They were beginning to understand. Are you all willing to support each other through those storms? He asked, his voice a low hum, resonating with sincerity. I will. Tommy declared, pumping his fist as if to emphasize his spark of bravery. And me. Came a chorus of voices from the group. The energy swelled, creating a warm bubble of connection, softening the edges of anxiety brought by the raging storm outside. Jack smiled widely, the weight on his shoulders lightening. Then let us make a pact. A commitment to be there for one another, no matter how tough it gets. As they moved closer together, the storm raged on, but inside their shared space, an entirely different situation unfolded. Little did they know, their pact would soon be tested in ways they never expected. Would they be able to weather the storms that were brewing on the horizon, both in their lives and their community? Would the bonds they formed hold strong when faced with the unexpected bolts that life threw their way? The wind was relentless outside, but inside, the atmosphere crackled with a newfound energy. Jack felt the warmth of the kids' commitment wrap around him like a cozy blanket. No matter how fierce the storm raged outside, they had created a small sanctuary of hope and connection. As they whispered promises of support to one another, Jack noticed the quiet girl, Emma, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. He reached out to her. What about you, Emma? Do you want to share something? She hesitated, her gaze darting between her friends, but then she took a steadying breath. I sometimes feel like nobody sees me, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. But hearing you all say you want to help each other, it makes me feel like I'm not invisible. Jack's heart ached for her. He nodded gently. You're not invisible, Emma. We're all here, and we see you. It's okay to let others feel your struggles too. The other kids leaned in, listening intently. Tommy, still riding the wave of his declaration, chimed in, yeah. We can make sure everyone knows they matter. Let us promise to check in on each other. A wave of agreement echoed in the room. They were more than just a group, they were becoming a true community. As they took turns sharing their fears and hopes, a bond formed, growing stronger with each heartfelt confession. Suddenly, another rumble of thunder shook the atmosphere, this time producing gasps rather than shivers. Jack knew from experience that their newfound pact might be tested more than once. It was the nature of storms, they didn't discriminate. The kids were now buzzing with a mix of emotions, invigorated by their pledges, but still wary of the dark clouds that loomed. Jack took a moment to let them absorb the intensity. What you're feeling right now, that mix of excitement and fear. That's what makes us human. Life can feel chaotic, but remember, it's okay to be afraid. Just don't let that fear stop you from reaching out. Emma wiped the tears from her cheeks, and for the first time, he saw her smile. It was small, but it was genuine. "Thank you," she whispered, and the group collectively took a deep breath, as if breathing life into her light. The storm outside had begun to wane, the howling wind now just a whisper, compared to the voices that filled the room. Jack sensed they had created something special that night, enough to withstand even the harshest trials. But just as hope settled like a warm glow in their hearts, the lights flickered overhead, plunging the room into darkness. A chorus of gasps echoed around them, followed by nervous laughter. The sudden silence became thick, as the shadows danced around them. Jack's heart quickened. Strange thoughts flooded his mind, but he pushed them away. "Hey, we're still here, right?" he said, his voice steady. "Nothing can take away the bond we've formed. Let us stick together." Suddenly, a loud knock echoed from the door. The kids jumped at the unexpected sound, fear flashing across their faces again. Jack glanced toward the door, his heart racing. Who could it be? Was it someone who needed them, or was it another storm they weren't prepared for? The kids huddled closer, adrenaline buzzing in the air. Jack swallowed hard and stepped toward the door, glancing back over his shoulder at their expectant faces. With his hand on the doorknob, he took a breath in and steadied his resolve. Whatever awaited them could change everything once again. Would they be strong enough to face the unexpected together? As he turned the knob, the door creaked open, and dread mixed with anticipation filled the room. What lay before them on the other side could either reinforce their fragile bond or threaten to unravel everything they'd worked so hard to build. As the door swung open, the faint glow of streetlights contrasted with the darkness inside, illuminating a figure standing hesitantly on the threshold. It was a young woman, drenched from the rain, with wild hair and wide, searching eyes. The wind tousled her clothes as she balanced a small backpack on her shoulder, clearly seeking shelter. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice a gentle whisper that cracked with fear and fatigue. The kids exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Jack felt his heartbeat echoing in his ears. "Of course," he replied, stepping aside. "You're safe here." As she stepped inside, Jack ushered her in and closed the door against the elements. The tension melted somewhat, the atmosphere shifting from apprehension to concern for the stranger. "What is your name?" Jack asked gently. "Lila," she replied, her voice barely above a murmur. She looked around the room, catching sight of the group huddled together. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I saw the lights and thought maybe," but the kids had already moved instinctively closer, drawn by a shared sense of compassion that Jack had ignited in them. Tommy spoke up, "You can stay as long as you need to. We were just talking about how important it is to support each other." Lila's eyes widened, shimmering with gratitude as she absorbed their warmth. Jack felt the moment push them all closer together, their earlier fears dissipating into the welcoming embrace of a shared experience. "How did you end up out there?" Jack asked, his voice soothing. She hesitated for a moment, and Jack could visibly see her shyness battling insecurity. I lost my job a few months back. Things have been tough. I tried to make it work, but I ended up on the street." The kids listened attentively, their eyes softening with empathy. Jack nodded, feeling the urgency of the situation deepen. "And now? You're okay now?" "I'm just looking for a way out, you know." Lila sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "That's what this space is for," Jack said, the words rolling off his tongue. "We're all searching for ways forward. You're not alone in this anymore." Just like that, the little gathering shifted. The kids, filled with a nurturing spirit, began to feel a kinship not only with Lila but also with each other, reminding Jack that community was about inclusion, sharing stories and burdens alike, no matter how heavy. Tommy stepped forward. "We just promised to help each other. That includes you too, Lila. Can we help you?" And Jack watched, amazed, as the kids surrounded her, offering kind words and gestures of support. Lila's expression shifted, gratitude flowing from her like a river. The energy in the room became palpable, the very essence of connection thrumming around them. As Jack watched them rally together, his heart burst with warmth. "We can work together," he said. "Maybe we can help you find resources. And we've got each other's backs too, always." Lila nodded, her eyes shimmering with fresh hope as a small smile danced on her lips. "Thank you. This means everything." Jack caught Sarah's gaze from the corner of the room. They exchanged knowing smiles. They had crossed barriers tonight that once felt insurmountable. "Together we can make a difference," he added, clarity blooming inside him. "Not just for ourselves but for others too, like Lila. We can use our stories and connections to uplift one another." As thunder rolled softly in the distance, Lila let out a hesitant chuckle. "I didn't expect to find a family here tonight." "Families can come together unexpectedly," Jack replied, his heart swelling. "We're here for each other now." Gradually, the group circled around Lila, each child sharing a snippet of their story or offering to help in any way they could. They discussed ideas about organizing outreach for those in need, making plans to volunteer at local shelters together. Support spiraled like a wildfire, igniting the room with enthusiasm and warmth. Through the darkness that had once enveloped Lila, Jack saw flickers of light emerge, illuminating paths of hope. His heart raced. This was what it meant to truly connect, to embrace not only joy and success but also struggles and sorrow, and to transform them into a force of support. As the kids laughed and shared ideas, Jack contemplated the journey they had all embraced together, the blend of their heartaches woven into a tapestry of strength. Just then, another flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed by a resounding crack of thunder. The fearful energy dissipated into laughter, reminding them of the storms they had just faced and those that perhaps still awaited. But standing together, united in purpose and understanding, he felt an unwavering sense of certainty. As daunting as the challenges could be, they were more than equipped to face whatever came next. "Ready for anything that comes our way?" Jack asked, raising a hand in playful exaggeration. The kids cheered, a chorus of laughter echoing off the walls. Lila joined in, her worry replaced by embracing joy. Together, against whatever the rain might bring next, they had formed an unbreakable bond. The storm outside could rage on, but inside, they had weathered the tempest and found their grounding in the power of community, understanding, and unconditional support. This was only the beginning. As Jack looked out into the stormy night, he felt a sense of belonging wash over him like the warmth of the brightest sunshine after a torrential downpour. If you'd like to be part of this journey as well, don't miss out. You need to subscribe now. Join our community for more incredible stories that inspire hope and transformation. And while you're here, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these heartwarming tales. Comment below with your reactions to this incredible journey and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation of compassion and resilience. Let us keep this love going. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support means the world and strengthens the bond we're building together.